Hello, it is nice to see you again. Inland waterways transport system is one of the oldest channels of movement. Now, what is the state of affairs in that transportation subsector? We will find out tonight. Nigeria is endowed with large resource base of waterways spanning 10,000 kilometers, made up of navigable rivers, especially Niger and Benue, lakes, coastal creeks, lagoons, and canals. But it is unfortunate that only about 3,800 kilometers can be navigated. Some observers trace the reason for the deficit to inadequate utilization of the abundant waterways due to long period of neglect by successive administrations, despite the huge economic potential in that transportation subsector. The question on the lips of many transport industry operators is, when will the inland waterway system be accorded the needed attention that could return this waterborne carriage system to its original status as one of the oldest commerce-driven transportation channel? There are daunting challenges in the subsector, namely inadequate investment in the critical infrastructure, human capital development, multiple taxes and levies which operators have to pay to both states and federal governments' waterways authorities, who often engage in subtle regulatory supremacy battle. There are other intervention requirements such as quarterly dredging, desilting, and removal of wrecks, which is often responsible for boat mishaps. Now, the current administration considers this subsector as central in its transportation development plan and says the revamping of the inland waterways has commenced. More reports on the state of affairs of the nation's waterways and efforts to reposition it for growth and development will be on our correspondence report in the course of our presentation today. Now, you are tuned to Weekend File, and tonight I will be speaking with Emmanuel Ilori, technical advisor to the Managing Director, National Inland Waterways. It's another weekend and another session of news, views, and analysis. The news comes first. President Muhammadu Buhari has said that the split within the Ohanese and the Igbo socio-cultural group over its reported endorsement of Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, did not surprise him. Speaking at a meeting with select group of Southeast leaders on Friday at the State House, President Buhari said that the moment the so-called resolution was announced, he got calls from well-meaning leaders from that region asking him to disregard it as it was without any substance. State House correspondent Jida Onifade reports.
President Muhammadu Buhari said that his party, the All Progressives Congress, got it right from the very beginning, that the major problems facing the country were mainly on security, corruption, and the economy. He said so much have been done, and given the chance, his government would do more. The leaders of the delegation, Emeka Okposa, and the national chairman of the United Progressive Party, UPP, Chief Chekwas Okorie, informed President Buhari that the Igbos and Southeasterners generally understand the good things he is doing for Nigeria. They promised to mobilize support for him in the Southeast, saying that his re-election will be a national consensus.
I've been a member of the Elders Council. There was nowhere we met and agreed on the event that took place 2 days ago. And good thing by some intervention, Haneze has issued a statement to say they did not, as a body, endorse Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, because that wouldn't happen. Haneze is a non-partisan Igbo organization. So we are going to change the narrative so that our people will be more involved. Instead of being out of government, we'll be in government.
Similarly, chairman of the All Progressives Congress, Adams Oshomole, says the party is fully set for the 2019 elections campaign.
We are going to be able to announce the date and the program and transparently speak to all the issues, and you will be fully involved.
The The chairman says he's fully confident that the people of Nigeria are convinced about the good governance the party is providing for the country. The chairman spoke to the press after meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari at the State House. Jide Onifade, NTA News.
More on politics now. Northeast elders of the All Progressives Congress, APC, are meeting in Abuja to perfect strategies for the actualization of President Muhammadu Buhari's re-election in 2019. Former Bauchi State Governor Issa Yuguda said youth will be drafted in the group's plan of action to ensure President Buhari wins the election with a landslide. Ablahu Aminu reports.
The meeting brought together 7 and former political office holders, elder statesmen, and APC party gladiators from across the 6 states in the Northeast. The focus is how to strategize and mobilize support for President Muhammadu Buhari's re-election so as to consolidate on gains recorded in the areas of security, infrastructure, agriculture, and the economy, among other achievements of the APC-led administration.
Good governance is all about providing for security for life and property. And Nigerians should not shy away. They should not look the other way around. He is the right person that can continue so that at least we can have good governance.
A communique is expected at the end of the meeting, which also considers proposed developmental agenda for the region by President Muhammadu Buhari. In Abuja, Abdullahi Aminu, NTA News.
The by-election process in Ekiti-Okero in Irebudu Federal Constituency, Kwara State, was adjudged peaceful, free, fair, and transparent. This was the general assessment of electorates at the just concluded Federal Constituency election. Abdullahi Eleotu has the report.
As early as 8 o'clock in the morning, election materials arrived in good time and eligible voters came out en masse to exercise their franchise. NTA News observed that accreditation of voters began simultaneously with the voting exercise as voters without card reader issues cast their votes immediately, while voters with card reader issues were asked to undergo a recapturing process. They were later allowed to exercise their constitutional rights. In most of the places visited in the 4 participating local government areas, NTA News observed that election processes were perfect. Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, was among eligible voters that performed their constitutional rights in Oro, Irekwon local government area of Kwara State.
I think the turnout has been impressive. The voting has been peaceful. You can see that there is no violence. Everybody has gone about his business, and there has been no attempt to coerce anybody.
So far, so good. We don't have any issues there. The card reader is working. Materials are on ground on time.
Things, as you can see, they want their people. They all came out en masse to vote.
Malam Atahiru Garba is the resident electoral commissioner in Kwara State.
The election is going on fine. We don't have problem anywhere.
As observers, everything is moving on smoothly.
They therefore commended the federal government for putting in place adequate machineries for a free, fair, and credible exercise. Abdullahi Elewetu, NTA News.
And more on politics now. The daughter of former Senate President David Mark, Blessing Onu, has dumped the People's Democratic Party and announced joining the All Progressives Grand Alliance, ABGAM. She said she was not satisfied with the way PDP conducted its last primary elections. Achigili Magaji reports.
At the Otukpo Bond Bricks Limited, half a kilometer to the town, the eagerly waiting crowd burst into jubilation at the arrival of Blessing. The procession of motorcades through the major streets of Otukpo was greeted with wide jubilation.
She's a woman that everybody wants to reckon with.
If one is to be paid by one's good works, I think you will coast to victory.
Blessing is a mother. She's a God-sent somebody to this land.
The palace of the Chidoma was the destination, where she was received by the paramount ruler of the Idoma people. Having sought and gotten the royal blessing, she proceeded to address the enthusiastic supporters at the Ochidoma Square.
Not my intention to leave the PDP. We all here work tirelessly for the party. And some of you were witnesses to what happened during the PDP primary in Makati. It was the height of impunity and injustice. Yes, it was. Justice shall prevail. We thank God. We thank God for a party like Afghan.
Other supporters of the party and stakeholders in her project appealed for peaceful campaigns and called on all her supporters to take the message to the grassroots. In Otukbo, Achigilimagaji, NTA News.
Inspector General of Police Ibrahim Idris says the Nigeria Police Force is committed to ensuring free, peaceful and credible 2019 election. And this was at a summit for security operatives in the Northeast. Rebecca Baturi reports that the summit was organized by Brunei State Police Command.
Inspector General of Police Ibrahim Idris, who appreciated effort of the organizers of the training, assured police readiness to collaborate towards realizing peaceful elections, saying security issues in the Northeast is also happening in other areas with different dimension.
The election that is coming, we can do it. It is when we work together we can successfully have credible and peaceful elections.
Commissioner of Police Borno State Command, Damien Chukwu, also represented by the Deputy Commissioner of Police, Yunusa Ogochi, who said the training is timely, expressed the need for more strategic planning. The team lead Nigeria Policing Program, Kemi Okinyodo, represented by the state team lead, Idris Bawa, said they are on assessment in collaboration with Nigerian Police and Independent Electoral Commission, INEC.
To support the planning process that will foster joint security working for the provision of 2019 general election.
The summit drew security chiefs from Adamawa, Borno, Yobe and other stakeholders in electioneering process in the Northeast, which featured paper presentations during the training. In Maiduguri, Rebecca Baturi, NTA News.
President Muhammadu Buhari has charged graduating students of the Premier University of Ibadan to strive with determination to use the knowledge acquired to become springboard for world-class development of the nation. The president, who is a visitor to the university but represented by the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, gave the charge at the 70th anniversary of the convocation of the institution. Ayomiku Ajibala reports.
Reminding the graduates that life is never a bed of roses, President Muhammadu Buhari, represented by the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, urged graduates not to be deterred by the usual distraction of life, but should remain focused. While congratulating the university on its 70th anniversary, the president says the institution still maintains its place as a high-level human resource provider for the nation and key player in research for development activities.
70 years on, we have come a long way, and we have even a much longer way to go. Every generation is, whether it knows it or not, equipped to deal with the challenges of its times and to hand over a legacy that enables the next generation to navigate its own journey with greater ease.
Chancellor of the institution, Sultan of Sokoto, Sahad Abubakar, says the university will reposition itself to become one of the top 5 universities in Africa and among the first 500 universities in the world.
There is clear evidence of the core values of honesty, modesty, prudence, self-business, and hard work in our corporate culture today.
6 eminent Nigerians who have distinguished themselves in society, including Chief Bode Akindele, Professor Bolale Awe, Dr. Olufumilayo Olapade, Professor Grace Alele Williams, Professor Akin Mabogunje, and Professor Omoniyi Adewole were honored by the institution. In Ibadan, Ayomiku Ajibola, NTA News.
To reposition agriculture for sustainable development, conscious efforts must be made to strengthen the nexus between production and other agricultural value chain. This, among other issues, were the position of Professor Mohammed Kota Yahya during the South-South Agric Expo held in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State Capital. Susan Asugo has a report.
Before the discovery of crude oil in the mid-50s, agriculture was the mainstay of the Nigerian economy. The boom in oil exploration relegated agriculture to the background, making Nigeria depend solely on crude oil. However, President Muhammadu Buhari, as one of his policy thrusts, is making efforts to diversify the economy through agriculture in order to ensure food sufficiency and security. In line with this, the first South-South Agric Expo held in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State is to further buttress the fact that everyone must get involved in farming. Lead speaker at the event, Professor Mohammed Kota Yahya, in his paper entitled Repositioning Agriculture for Economic Development, noted that improved farmer education, improved seeds and access to fertilizers, among other things, can lead to economic transformation in many African countries and Nigeria.
The diversification of the economy, agriculture is a major player, and that you can see the change in terms of policies.
Representative of the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Mrs. Afion Umo, and representative of the Minister for Budget and Planning, Mrs. Adeshola Oluide, stressed the need for everyone to get involved by taking agriculture from the subsistence to commercial level. With the theme, Repositioning Agriculture for Sustainable Economic Development, the event attracted participants from all the states within the South-South region. In Uyo, Susan Asukwo, NTA News.
Nigerians, regardless of their religious affiliation, have been urged to maintain high level of honesty while contributing their quota to national development and peaceful coexistence. The Sultan of Sokoto, Mohammed Sada Abubakar, said this at an Islamic forum in Abuja. Lukman Adefeso has the report.
The Sultan of Sokoto, who doubles as the President General, Nigerian Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs, Muhammad Sahad Abubakar, joined by the Governor of Ogun State, Ibikunle Amosun, while addressing Muslim Ummah in Abeokuta, urged Nigerians to toe the path of peace and tolerance, urging public-spirited Muslims to spend their God-given wealth towards the advancement of Islam, while emphasizing that there are no discrepancies in Islam for true believers.
We can contribute our quota in and out of offices as long as we are honest to one another.
I believe that it is when we do things like this, it's like we are sowing some kind of seed. And when we do it, you will see that the Almighty Allah will multiply all of those things that were, all the seeds that were sown.
The Registrar, Joint Admission and Matriculation Board, JAMB, Professor Ishak Oloyede, and the National President, Nawaruddin Society of Nigeria, Alhaji Rasaki Oladejo, also lent their voices to the need to check youth restiveness.
In another development, motorists plying the routes leading to the seaport in Lagos and will soon breathe a sigh of relief as the reconstruction of 32 kilometers Apapa Oshodi Orosoku Road, which is part of ongoing measures to tackle gridlock within Lagos metropolis, was flagged off by the Minister of Works, Power and Housing. Paul Omukago reports.
The Apapa Oshodi Oroshoki Ojota Express Road is a major route to Nigeria's busiest seaports at Tinkan Island and Apapa, as well as the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Ikeja. Constructed between 1975 and 1978 by the then military government, the dual carriageway also connects the east and west senatorial districts of Lagos State, stretching through Oshodi and linking the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway at Oroshoki. Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, while commending President Muhammadu Buhari for taking the initiative, appealed to stakeholders to be patient as the federal government is working assiduously to arrest road infrastructure shortfall in different parts of the country.
This government is building the foundation that will
release the economic prosperity and the employment issues that all of us are talking about. Recover this road, reconstruct it, so that the traffic that has gone inside the city can come back this way and bring relief.
Senate Committee Chairman on Works, Senator Kabiru Kaya, and Lagos State Governor Akinwumi Ambode lauded the initiative, adding that the current challenges of the motoring public will soon be a thing of the past.
The current pace of an infrastructural development is sustained for another 45 years. The huge infrastructure deficit will be reduced to its barest minimum.
Concrete template is what is being experimented here to give us a long-lasting solution to this Apapa gridlock.
The minister had earlier inspected the Apapa Wharf Road constructed under public-private partnership. In Lagos, Paul Omukago, NTA News.
A property worth millions of naira have been razed by fire in Gada local government area of Sokoto State. The incident occurred last night when a petroleum tanker exploded. No life was lost.
The inferno occurred midnight Friday when a fuel tanker loaded with the product from Sokoto on its way to Rafinduma, a border village, lost control in Gada town at Kara Market T Junction and exploded. The structures raised by the fire include the second Central Jamaat Mosque Gada, 23 shops, 8 houses, and an Islamia school, including the residence of the Speaker, Sokoto State House of Assembly. Items lost to the fire also include large quantity of bags of beans, garlic, rice, flour, vegetable oil, provisions, brand new motorcycles, water pumps, textile materials, agri inputs, household materials, and foodstuff. Though no life was lost, sources say about 30 number of accidents have occurred at the same scene in the past 15 years due to the nature of the road.
So many times, for years, this has been happening. So it is very unfortunate, and we are appealing to the concerned authorities to come into our rescue.
Before the arrival of the firefighting trucks from Sokoto and Ilela, a distance of 100 kilometers and 37 kilometers, the inferno had already made serious damages. The geographical location of Gada town in the lowland and the main road from Sokoto sloping from the highland into the town has made accidents common at the scene. In Sokoto, Dalatu Abdullahi, NTA News.
To reduce carnage and losses during the festive period, the Road Safety Corps says enlightenment and sanctions will be applied for safe motoring. The Corps Marshal Boboye Oyeyemi said this in Ado-Ekiti at the inauguration of new office operatives. Kola Adeboboye has that report.
The permanent office complex equipped with modern facilities became necessary as part of the cardinal infrastructural developments of the Corps to fast-track its activities with a view to safeguarding lives and property of Nigerians on the nation's road. Corps Marshal Oyeyemi noted that the Corps is in the forefront of reducing rates of road traffic crashes through interventions and commitment to make travels accident-free and prevent injuries and untimely deaths that will emanate from road crashes.
And I told the management that I would seek the support of Mr. President for us to have our permanent offices nationwide. And within the last 3.5 years, we have put up 8 of these. 3 are going on for 2018 because the key issue has to do with infrastructure and development.
The State Governor, Dr. Kayode Fayemi, commended the Corps for providing an enabling working environment for its personnel and promised to support any initiative that will enhance safety on the roads.
It is my belief that this edifice will enhance productivity and further spur members of the Corps into investing their time in the task of ridding our roads of avoidable crashes.
The construction of the Ekiti State Office of the Corps is among other 3 ongoing permanent office complex projects in Asaba, Uyo, Gombe by the Commission. In Ado-Ekiti, Kola Adebobuyi, NTA News.
The Bureau of Public Enterprises, BPE, is assuring Nigerians it is committed to reforming the public sector responsibly. The Director General of the Bureau, Mr. Alex Oko, at the 30 years anniversary award and dinner night of the organization, said this is in line with the core values of the BPE. Leah Katun Babatunde reports.
Privatization in Nigeria was formally introduced in 1988 by the Privatization and Commercialization Act, which set up the Technical Committee on Privatization and Commercialization (TCPC), with a mandate to privatize 111 public enterprises and commercialize 34. 30 years down the line, the TCPC metamorphosed into the Bureau of Public Enterprise (BPE) in 1999 through an act which created the National Council on Privatization (NCP). From year 2000 to date, the BPE has successfully completed over 142 transactions on behalf of government. Recounting these achievements, Director General of the Bureau, Alex Oko, says the milestones achieved cannot go unnoticed, which explains the long service awards given to some staff.
So we've managed to save, the federal government from, further providing subvention for these enterprises. But beyond that, by privatizing the enterprises, we've been able to ensure that the service delivery through private sector management of those enterprises has been to the benefit of the generality of Nigerians.
A lot of things have happened during this period, but a lot of us kept faith with the organization and remained till date.
Dr. Shamsuddin Usman was at the very beginning. He says a lot still needs to be done in public service reforms, and in the case of BPE, strict adherence to the code of conduct and continuity of policies in public service.
Yes, there were a few errors, a few mistakes. But overall, I think the program has really helped to transform Nigeria, particularly the public sector. And there are a lot of success stories that need to be told. Companies that were not doing well, that after privatization they have become very successful.
Notable reforms through the BPE were achieved in the telecommunications sector, public pensions and seaports administration. In Abuja, I'm Leah Kating-Babatunde, NTA News.
Thank you for staying with us up to this moment. Inland water transport in Nigeria has had a long history of neglect by both government and the private sector. And experts had thought that a Cabotage Act 2003 will catalyze the growth and development of the sector to reduce overdependence on road transport operations. Stay with us for further analysis on this and the current administration's strategy to turn the trend around. We'll be back in just a moment.
Hate speech is not a joke. It incites genocide and crimes against humanity. Most of Africa's civil wars are caused by hate speech from one tribe against another. We don't want it here. The Nigerian government stands firm against hate speech.
Under no conditions whatsoever should we tolerate or excuse or justify hate speech or hateful conduct of any kind, especially where such is illegal.
There's no doubt that the resurgent push for separatism, as well as the rising cases of ethnic and religious disharmony, are all traceable to the growing phenomenon of hate speech.
One nation bound in freedom, peace and unity.
Nigeria, one nation, one people.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
Hey, can you feel it? Glow is in the air. It's data. It's what you use every time you download music. Data. It's what streams movies. Data. It's what the banks use to check your account. Data. It's the very lifeblood of modern living. Data. And where does it all come from? Well, according to industry sources, more and more of it came from here. They acknowledge that Glow is now the largest data network in Nigeria. With your own Glow One submarine cable linked seamlessly to tens of thousands of kilometers with your own fiber optic cable. Glow can provide huge data capacity anywhere at a more flexible and affordable price than anyone. It's simple. So you see, Glow is in the air. It's everywhere.
Data is oxygen. Glow or Gas Enjoy 25% more data when you auto-renew your plan. Dial *777#. Glow, the unrivaled big boss of data.
The 36th International Conference and Exhibition of the Nigerian Association of Petroleum Exploration (NAPE) is set to hold in the city of Lagos with the theme, Evolving Strategies for a Sustainable Petroleum Business in a Fluctuating Oil Price Regime. The week-long event will hold from the 18th to 22nd November 2018 at the Eco Hotel and Suites, Victoria Island, Lagos by 9 a.m. daily. Monday 19th, pre-conference workshop, keynote speaker, Minister of Power Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Raji Fashola. Tuesday 20th, opening ceremony, special guest of honor, Dr. Emmanuel Ibekachiko, Minister of State Petroleum Resources, and keynote address by Dr. Austin Avuru, MD, CEO, Seplat Petroleum Development Company PLC. Wednesday 21st, management session, keynote address by Mekanti Baru, Group Managing Director, NNPC. For other events, registration details, sponsorship and inquiries, visit our website on www.nape.org.ng or call this number. This message is sponsored by Amni International Petroleum Company Limited. Announcer Emmanuel Egbele, Publicity Secretary for NAPE.
This festive season, there's no place like home. Get a GoTV decoder and GoTenna and 1 month of GoTV Max subscription for only 6,900 Naira. GoTV. Live it, love it.
Nigeria, now still one of the few countries in number of pregnant women still they die from things we're not supposed to kill them high pass. Thank God for things like family planning or childbirth spacing, where they help reduce number of women where they die because of say they carry belly. When we plan and put space between the times we they carry belly, our mama and pikin them no go they die anyhow. If all the women we need within them fit use, they control how they take get belly. Well, you they call contraceptives. Don't go fit prevent the death of about 1.5 million pikin them and 31,000 women inside the next 10 years. Our leaders, una need to settle this matter by making sure say family planning services reach every woman inside we country. No woman supposed suffer or die because she want born pikin. We must join hand and get it together, make our future for bright. Now, Federal Ministry of Health, they bring on this message.
Fake news which is shared for malicious purposes is a danger to our peace and security in Nigeria. Misinformation as fake news is a serious threat to our hard-earned democracy and promotes hatred and misunderstanding between our communities. We are all responsible for stopping the spread of fake news in its tracks. So, always check the source and credibility of any news item. Say no to fake news. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information.
Nigeria, a land of promise, land of potential, rich in oil, arable land and solid minerals. Yet, hunger, joblessness, homelessness, and poverty are widespread. Over the years, Nigeria has suffered from hospitals without drugs, schools without teachers, and a huge infrastructure deficit. Clearly, we are yet to reach our full potential. And one of the reasons is because people choose bad leaders. Some even sell their conscience for a few thousand naira. For 2019 elections, don't sell your vote. Don't sell your future. Don't buy the people's lives. Vote selling is a crime against yourself. You will spend the next 4 years paying for it. Vote buying is against the law. Politicians, stop buying votes. People, stop selling your future. This message is from the National Orientation Agency.
One of the objectives of setting up the National Inland Waterways Authority of Nigeria is to provide regulatory framework that would develop the navigable transport infrastructure. How far has the noble objectives been met? What are the constraints of the authority and how can these be mitigated? In this background report, Madaki Aliyu looks at the challenges confronting the relevant authorities.
The National Inland Waterways, located in Lokoja before now, was a department in the Federal Ministry of Transport, established by an Act of National Assembly, Cap 47 Law of the Federation in 2004. The aim is to improve and develop Nigeria's inland waterways for navigation. The newer Act empowers it to issue licenses for inland navigation, provision of jetties and dockyards, carry out examination of inland watercraft, and licensing of shipyard operators. It also grants permits for sand dredging and pipeline construction, dredging of slots, and granting approval for designs and construction of inland river crafts. The authority acquires boats that enable it to operate ferry services for the movement of goods and passengers, as well as cruise boats for tourism and leisure. Similarly, NIWA carries out hydrological and hydrographic surveys, environmental impact assessment, marine as well as transport services. However, NIWA has been faced with numerous challenges towards attaining these objectives, include interagency conflict, funding and manpower shortages, as well as oil exploration, environmental degradation, and mining activities which affects the right of way. It is to underscore the magnitude of the problem that NIWA has presented a bill to the National Assembly to make it more responsive to the yearnings of Nigerians.
The NIWA amendment bill is there, and we are seeking for the passing to make NIWA more efficient, to make NIWA more responsive, to the expectations of not just government, but the people of this country as well.
However, in spite of Nigeria's large population as well as growing gap in the development of the country's transport infrastructure, experts believe that with about 900 kilometers of inland rivers which cut across 3,000 kilometers of navigable routes, when explored, it will foster rapid socio-economic development.
Absence of proper navigational information, poor government funding, and lack of infrastructural development have been identified as major challenges affecting the proper harnessing of the nation's inland water transport subsector. This is without prejudice to attitudinal issues by residents of riverine communities. Emmanuel Lene examines the prospects and challenges of inland water transportation in Rivers State and how the huge potential in the sector can be optimally harnessed.
In Rivers State, and indeed most states in South Nigeria, navigable rivers, creeks, and streams crisscross several communities with tributaries and attributes that stretch from the Atlantic Ocean. Water constitutes about 39% of landmass in Rivers State. This makes inland water transport almost inevitable for riverine communities, while also offering the most economical means of transport to these areas. However, despite being one of the oldest means of transportation with immense job creation opportunities in commerce and tourism, the inland water transport subsector in the state has had a long history of neglect by the state government, as could be seen in the wrecks of these government-owned boats.
Before this place, the ministry has transport boats that they normally use from here to Bonny, from here to Bayelsa, any part of the state they want to go. But now it's no longer there again.
Some clear-cut challenges include, but not limited to, lack of government funding for the subsector, limited private sector involvement, absence of necessary infrastructure, poor navigational information, as well as policy inconsistency.
We are using a propeller. The moment propeller, there are sabat in the water. When the sabat will hold the propeller, it can even turn the boat, capsize the boat.
This is a government jetty that governors used to pass and travel, and other transport, they used it for other transportation. It makes this journey smooth. Now government let down everything.
Tom Shaba is the head of Surveys, National Inland Waterways Authority, Port Harcourt. He highlights efforts by the authority to improve on some of these drawbacks.
Inland waterway cannot be fully operational without navigational charts, and the authority is aware of that. Because if you don't know this, it will be a major cause of accident. Your boat can run aground at any point in time.
Efforts made to speak with officials of Rivers State Ministry of Transport was not successful. Stakeholders are, however, calling for stronger policies as well as public-private sector participation to harness the huge potential in the sector. In Port Harcourt, Emmanuel Lene, NTA News.
As Nigeria pursues optimal utilization of its waterways, Simon Asha in Yola reports on the accessibility of water transportation and how it can be improved in tune with the ideals of the changing times.
The movement of goods and services along inland waterways is one of the oldest means of transportation that passed from one generation to another. This is largely due to the fact that inland water transport plays a vital role in providing alternative means of transportation where all types of cargo can be used in conveying goods and services with ease. In Adamawa State, for instance, which shares boundaries with the Republic of Cameroon, commercial activities through the inland waterways transport is on the increase on a daily basis. However, lack of dredging River Benue and provision of modern facilities that will provide all year-round navigation for the transportation of big cargoes and passengers remain a major challenge in the state.
Because of the lack of dredging, the obstructions on the water, they don't explore it throughout the year. So it is more of a seasonal operation that they carry out.
Like drying season, around that March, April, May, like this. If you are not qualified for this driving, maybe if you are going, sometime you go climb the Sansan. At that time, we are facing a challenge for the Sansan too much.
View the sheer vision of the federal government to ensure efficiency of the inland waterways transportation system, stakeholders are of the view that synergy between the state and the federal government is imperative.
Have the best of the inland waterways, we will require the intervention of the federal government. And gradually, the state will identify the necessary infrastructure that should be placed, that will be put in place for smooth operation of the inland waterways.
We ensure efficiency and seamless operation of the inland waterways. Improvement in the institutional structure and features of the inland waterway systems, which is associated public utilities, are essential to enhancing economic growth. In Yola, Simon Asha, NTA News.
Thank you, Simon. Now, water transportation in Lagos has faced several challenges, limiting its capabilities as an alternative means of transportation to road. Dotu Oguyemi in this report identifies the gains and setbacks facing inland water transportation in the state.
As a means of transportation in Lagos accounts for about 1 million passengers every month. This is why the subsector accounted for only 0.5% of the nation's GDP in 2017, according to stakeholders. Some of the challenges include high cost of operations and fares, both mishaps and lack of public confidence. Amos is a regular commuter on water. He is of the opinion that public confidence in the subsector is one of the major challenges that need to be addressed.
Some sensitization and provide more means, make it cheaper, because as it stands now is a little bit more expensive than going through the normal way, going through the normal road, if not for the traffic that we experience. Yeah.
The Lagos state government earlier this year organized a forum for regulators and proposed investors where the state governor, Mr. Akinwumi Ambode, assured stakeholders that his administration will not waver in making the right investment in coastal assets to boost public confidence in water transportation.
My duty is to create that enabling environment to allow your investments to thrive and also create that sense of transparency. I don't want to be partners in your business, and I don't want to be a shareholder. Neither do I want Lagos State government to be shareholder in whatever it is they are bringing.
Federal and state regulators are keen on ensuring safety on the waterways to address some of these challenges by proper channelization, training of boat operators, and building of new jetties.
You have the shallow waters around, but if you notice, if you actually go on the waterways, there's a lot of channelization going on. That's like dredging, you know, removing sand beneath the water. So to give it a larger depth for boats to navigate safely. After that, we'll be doing a lot of what we call marker buoys, installing the marker buoys. It's going to be like a BRT lane on top of the on the waterways.
The challenge facing the subsector is that the private sector has not been able to key in yet, and the reasons are not far-fetched. For example, whereas you can build boats in Nigeria, good boats, standard boats, we do not manufacture engines.
That with government's decision to hand over boat operations to private investors, this will go a long way in addressing several challenges, including cost, safety, and effective management. Building public confidence in water transportation is one of the ways that the government is looking at addressing challenges facing the water transport subsector. And this it is doing by inviting public-private partnership into the sector. This will in turn ensure that goods and persons are moved effectively across the Lagos metropolis. In Lagos, Dotun Ogunyemi, NTA News.
Thank you indeed, Dotu. And in this studio tonight, we are going to be hosting Emmanuel Ilori, the technical advisor to the managing director of National Inland Waterways. He'll be joining me for a conversation in just a moment. Do stay with us.
The Buhari Media Organization invites the general public to Buhari Connect, a celebration of the people's president. It's a hangout time and a gathering of lovers of good governance. It is also a time to refresh and rejuvenate for the campaigns ahead. Buhari Connect comes up on Sunday, the 18th day of November 2018 at the Unity Fountain in Maitama, Abuja. Arrival of guests and BMO hangouts starts at 1 p.m. Come, let's celebrate the people's president. Buhari Connect, powered by the Buhari Media Organization.
It no be like before again, no. Now, many more Nigerians, they suffer inside poverty. They no fit get better food, better house, better education and healthcare, unlike 20 years ago. As it be so, now to encourage families to bond the number of people with them fit take care of, so that them go comot them family and themselves from poverty and reduce economic hardship. Thank God for family planning or childbirth spacing. With them, plenty families go fit they live better lives. As leader where you be, the solution dey your hand, and what you need to do now to take action now. All we lawmakers and government people them must make sure say them put enough money down. We go make sure say childbirth spacing services where plenty people they also call family planning services go reach everybody. Our pastors, imam and traditional leaders supposed open mouth to tell them people about the better thing. We family planning do. We must join hand and get it together. Make our future for bright. Now Federal Ministry of Health they bring on this message.
My name is Mrs. Ajala Olushola. I'm one of the food vendor for the school, home-grown school feeding. This is where I do my cooking every morning before I take the food to school. I heard of it from the media. It was announced that those who are interested should apply. And I applied for it, I was screened, then I was chosen to serve. Then the financial aspects of it, I now benefit from it, unlike when I was idle at home. Apart from that, the homegrown school feeding has exposed me to meeting a lot of people. Thereby, my own business as a caterer can now increase, where I'm now connected to a lot of people.
And now our guest tonight is already seated, Emmanuel Ilori, the advisor to the managing director of National Inland Waterways. Now let's begin by asking you to speak on the navigable nature of Nigerian rivers. I know we have the two major, River Niger and River Benue. We also have lagoons, we have canals and what have you. How navigable are these waterways?
Thank you very much.
the navigability of the inland waterway is a big challenge that we are addressing at this point in time, because if the rivers are not navigable, it will be very, very difficult for us to have any meaningful and safe economic activity within the inland waterways. The priority is to ensure that the inland waterways are safe and that they are secure. At this point in time, and we know people are talking about dredging, but there is more to the navigability of the channels more than dredging. We need to have navigable equipment on the inland waterways, buoys, light, control of the vessel, communication with the vessel. All these things need to be put in place because you can say that the channels or the inland waterways are navigable. If you look at the various accidents that happen there, because people ply the inland waterways without proper guidance, and then that sort of situation is not acceptable to us. These are some of the priority issues that we are addressing to ensure that the inland waterways is navigable and safe to ply.
Now, there is a plan by the current administration to revamp the inland waterway transport system, and we will have a lot of challenges, especially with the infrastructure. Let us know some of these infrastructural deficit that is currently existing.
Well, some of the issues, I mean, I alluded to that in my opening statement. Now, like we said, you cannot safely navigate that channel without having proper communication with the vessel, without being able to monitor the traffic within the channels, without being able to understand the nature of the boats in the channel, without being able to control and regulate.
What is needed to be able to do all of this?
It needs funding, and that is the very big issue, because we have not addressed the issue of the funding of the navigability of the inland waterways. Now, if you look at it this way, nearly 300 billion naira was spent on roads in the last budget. Now, the inland waterways got a paltry sum of less than $10 billion. And now we are talking about inland waterways that spans 28 states of the Federation. And the network is such that it's supposed to be the backbone of industrialization of this country. It means we are cutting away the rural dwellers, those who actually need to be connected. We are cutting away the mineral resources that should be transported. If you look at Nigeria at this point in time, we are dependent on oil for our transport, for our economy. On the other hand, we know that we have various minerals abundantly, including coal, that could be exported. But at this point in time, Nigeria is not exporting as we should be. We are import-dependent economy. Whereas if we develop the inland waterways network, we can then begin to export these minerals, and that will be another source of income for Nigeria.
Now, what should be the involvement of the private sector in all of this?
Very interesting, because from our studies and from our network, the private sector are willing to engage with transportation within the inland waterways. But for some of the issues that we raised earlier on, to provision of the infrastructure that is not there at this point in time, it's not encouraging that investment. But there's what we call PPP, which you all know about, and then they are coming on board now to say, hey, we want to partner with you to improve your facilities. We want to partner with you to put boats into the rivers. We want to partner with you to develop ports. So these are issues that will develop in due time, and those are some of the priorities that we are engaging with at this point.
Now, there are other encumbrances along the line that has to do with double taxation and levies coming from both state and the federal government, inland waterways authorities, and some operators are complaining of double payments. Well, they call it a kind of a subtle fight for supremacy in terms of carrying out regulatory functions.
That's very interesting, because the only statutory body responsible for National Inland Waterways regulation is National Inland Waterways Authority. There is no other organization recognized in law responsible for control of the inland waterways.
We have some
traffic.
states that are taking advantage of that geographical location to also play some role in waterways, inland waterway transportation.
Well, we want to be a win-win situation. Don't forget the states, these water bodies are within the states. But in terms of national regulation, that lies with the Inland Waterways Authority. But for operation, nobody stops any of the states from operating within the inland waterways as long as they comply with the national technical requirements for operation within the inland waterways.
All right, well, we don't have enough time to talk more on this, but we believe that in the near future that you could return for another session that we would take a look at the nation's inland. Yes, I guess I'll
be wise. Don't be a violent Nigerian. Your future is at stake. Shun violence during elections. This message is from the National Orientation Agency.
And now Olumide Oguntola now has the sports for us.